Good evening and welcome to the Roundup. And we're live at Little America. Sorry for starting a little bit late. Got a few tech issues to work through, but that's okay. So I'm joined tonight by Eggsy Brown and Don Marquardt. Don is one of our journalists, works for the Open Range Record. You probably read a couple of her amazing pieces. She's got another really good one coming out that I'm really excited about. So, Don, why don't you take a few minutes and tell the audience about yourself and talk into the microphone?
Hey, well, I'm Dawn Marquardt, and I'm from over on the western side of the state. I got involved in politics here back after COVID, well, around COVID time. I was sick and tired of listening to everything that was going on and complaining about things, so I decided to get involved in the Republican Party. And I'm kind of ticked off, and that's why I decided to start writing. So here I am.
Great. You've written a couple of really great pieces that I really enjoy your writing. And you have a Substack too. So I want you to go ahead and plug that.
It's just Dawn Marquardt at Substack.
Okay. And also to my left, to the left of me, of course he is. This is Eggsy Brown. Eggsy ran against Landon Brown in the last election and narrowly got defeated. It was
17 votes.
17 votes. So why don't you take a couple minutes and why don't you tell everybody about yourself?
So I'm, as David said, I'm Eggsy Brown. Live here in Cheyenne. Retired from the Air Force after 22 years. Just retired 8 years ago, and I just started getting involved in our politics in 2024. I'd always paid attention to the politics, always kind of watched what was going on, and it got to a point where I was tired of sitting on the sideline. It was like, okay, coach, get me off the bench. It's time to go in.
I get that. That's why I started Cowboy State politics. It's all right. But that's honestly what happened to me in my show. I was reading the Casper Pravda on the Platte, and I just got tired of them lying. And I thought, it's stupid to sit around and complain about all this stuff all the time. We got to do something.
Right. Yeah. And we got I got encouraged to run in 24, especially after Landon had that big faux pas in court. And people started blowing up my phone saying, because 2026 was actually supposed to be my first run. And but people started blowing up my phone and said, you need to jump in now. We need somebody who's going to be a good representative in House District 9.
Okay, well, you left out a couple of things. So you're a carpenter, right?
Painter.
Painter.
I own a painting business.
You knew he was in the ballpark.
Yep.
And Mr. Eggsy Brown is a musician. So you've got a band, right?
Yeah, the band's name Southern Fried, spell it F-R-Y-E-D. And we are on our final tour, 2026. We're going to wrap things up in December. Yep.
Or you say you're done. Bands do that all the time.
Right.
I think Kiss has had like 17 farewell tours.
Right. No, this one's it. After 18 years of doing this, it's time.
Okay. Well, this is a news program, and the point of this show is to just talk about the news and try to do it from a perspective of kind of just the facts. Okay, what happened? I think people are sick and tired of slanted news. And, the truth is nothing can be unbiased, but we try. So let's start out. And, yesterday's program, we kind of missed this one. But let's talk about the recalibration bill. What happened there? So it was killed in the House, pretty unceremoniously, really. What do you guys think about it? Like, Dawn?
Well, I think it kind of stinks because it's affecting parents and teachers and students when constitutionally the legislature is supposed to do the recalibration every 5 years and then appropriate that money. And so because of the lawsuit now, if they don't bring this bill out, it's going to end up going back to the judge to decide what's going on.
Yeah, and well, I don't know if we want to break this news or not. I think we should probably. We've got some sort of breaking news that if you pay attention to the Open Range Record, we're gonna have what I think is a pretty cool breaking story tomorrow. But Lexi, did you pay any attention to the recalibration? It's been in the news a lot.
I've been watching it, and one of the things that that they were presenting was categorizing where the money goes.
Yeah, siloing the money.
Silo the money. And I really like that because you can actually better manage the money. It goes to where it's supposed to go. It's like when I was in the military, for about 12, 13 years of my career, one of my additional duties on top of my primary duties was budgeting.
Mhm.
I had to budget for all the units. Well, they didn't give us all of our money in one lump sum. We had one set aside for military pay, one set aside for travel,
Right.
one set aside for operations and maintenance, which is your supplies, mission essential equipment. And then they had other money for like special projects. And that was fenced or siloed for special projects. And what it did was it helped you manage that money, and it prevented a lot of waste from happening because you see where every dime is going.
Right.
And it was easy to call out. And so we talk about when they passed the bill to give teachers that 8.5% pay raise, teachers and staff.
Oh yeah, that
And here in Laramie County District 1, they only got a 3.02%. So where did the other remaining 5.5% go?
Well, that's a good question because, and I did a big story on this on Cowboy State Politics, about what happened to that raise. And to catch you all up, if you're not aware, last session the legislature passed an 8.5% raise for
Teachers
everybody.
and support
From
staff.
the custodian all the way up to the superintendent. Everybody got an 8.5% raise. And the truth is, only one school district in the entire state gave the raise, and they actually gave like a little north of 10%.
That was Sublette County School District
Yeah.
number 1. It was
Right.
like 10%.
And here's the crazy thing about it: Sublette County, they're not one of the more wealthy counties.
Pinedale
Right.
is. Sublette
Oh,
1
Pinedale.
is, yeah, but Sublette 9 is not. That's my school district. And I can tell you a little story about that. So where I live, we have a necessary rural school in Sublette 9 in LaBarge. And that's kind of like I want to say it's their cash cow in a way. They can get all this money for that necessary rural school, but then because the money is block granted, then it comes back into the school district and they basically spend it the way they want.
Right.
They don't spend it for, we can get this many principals here, this many teachers, this many, gym teachers and a librarian and an art teacher and a music teacher. They don't spend it like that. It just goes into Sublette 9 and they divvy up that money they see fit, and it usually stays up 20 miles north of us.
Right.
And then they always threaten that they're going to close our school down.
Yeah, and that's kind of been, I mean, that's kind of a reoccurring story with a lot of different school districts that, so like Campbell County. Campbell County's always been very wealthy. I mean, it's all the coal mines
Mhm.
and the property taxes there. And if you compare that to like, well, when I was in school, Johnson County was not that wealthy. And so Campbell County roll in and they got the really nice bus. And we're on like the old one with the bench seats. But anyway, to get back to the raise. So by the way, if you want to see the document that proves that, it's on cowboystatepolitics.com. And you may have to scroll down the show content page a little bit, but that document is there. But why I think that's important is, well, there's a lot of reasons, but when we're talking about recalibration, let's explain to our viewers how school district funding works. It's not like the legislature says you have, like you're talking about,
Mhm.
that you have this money for teachers, this money for staff. It's in a block grant.
Correct.
And so we all live in different parts of the state. So actually, what are you seeing in Laramie County?
Well, what we're seeing and what I'm hearing from educators, especially in my district, we are very heavy on educators in my district, and I hear a lot that money doesn't really always funnel into the classroom.
Okay.
They spend a lot of money on administration, and I've heard from several educators that Laramie County School District 1 especially has way too many administrators. We want to say it's almost like one administrator for every one or two teachers.
Really?
So it's like, well, how does that work? And what is the justification for that many administrators when they're only supervising one or two people?
Well, I think that's,
I don't understand that.
yeah, and I think that's something that a lot of Wyoming citizens don't realize.
Right.
One of my favorite statistics is, and this is a couple of years old, so don't hold me to it. But a couple of years ago, there was a study done, and over the past, I want to say it was 4 years, enrollment had actually gone down about 1,900 students statewide. But during that same time period, administration and staff had gone up about 3,600 positions. So more than double what they lost.
Right.
And so in a lot of districts, like Fremont County, great example, they have 8 school districts.
Mhm.
So I mean, it means 8 administrators, it means 8 staff, 8 8 sets of secretaries.
Mhm.
All right, so back to the recalibration level. So there were a lot of changes made, right, during in the committee. Dawn, you want to talk about a couple of those?
Like Exie was saying, they were siloing the teachers' money, the classroom support staff and everything into one thing is how Scott Heiner explained it. And what they were going to do is, I think, I'm not sure what grade level the cutoff was, but they were going to have one teacher in every classroom. And once the kids got up into, I think, middle school and high school, they were going to expand the class size, but they were going to add almost up to 2 extra adults in the room to help deal with discipline and to help, with, other kids that needed help with something and getting caught up on stuff. So, yeah, I think it might be a pretty good deal, but that's something I guess I don't understand what the problem is with the WEA.
Well, and I think the answer to your question is to look at the lawsuit.
Mhm.
Right?
So the WEA sued the legislature saying that we're not adequately funding education. And Scott, there's Majority Leader Heiner, you're next, buddy. You should really sit, get some to drink and come back. Several legislators behind this story. Anyway, there were several changes made in the recalibration. One of those was to silo the money. There was a proposal to increase class sizes.
Right.
Mhm.
And then the WEA, they freaked out saying, "Oh no, we can't increase class sizes. We don't have enough money for that. We're not funding education." But the reality is, we spend $21,700 per student. And I mean, people like the guy you ran against.
Mhm.
I mean, any penny he could shove towards the WEA did.
Well, and that's the problem is that they throw money. They think they can throw money at the problem, and it magically fixes it. And when you talk about those, when they filed the lawsuit, and those pay raises that the legislature approved, and when those pay raises didn't get to those teachers and that staff, where was the WEA throwing their fit? Why those teachers and staff didn't get their pay raises? It pretty much killed their argument. And what it just shows is the WEA, organizations like WEA and NEA, they're more concerned about protecting the institution than they care about teachers.
I think that's right.
Mhm.
And I think the evidence of that is like simple common sense policies. One of those that, and I say common sense, but we saw in the house today that maybe there aren't some people that think about this, but keeping porn out of the hands of kids. To me that makes sense. Maybe I'm off my rocker.
It makes sense to me. I got 2 daughters, and when they were going through school, I've even had this conversation with my daughters. They're adults now, but they said if they would have saw that stuff in school when they were going through elementary school, junior high, or even high school, they would have lost their mind. They would have freaked out.
Right.
And of course, they would have told dad, and dad would have been right down there, with a size 9 ready to go. So, I mean, yeah, it's common sense. Then you look at the grooming bill, from yesterday too, and it was amazing that people voted against. I mean, that's another common sense bill.
So that one, and you evidently pay attention to this more than I'm
Yeah.
not on TikTok. The lovely Christine tells me that I need to be, but whatever.
Well, I'm not on there either. So,
But all of the liberals in the House got blown up on libs of TikTok. Did you see that today?
yeah, I saw it on X
So all
or
right,
Twitter or whatever that is.
So I only saw a glimpse of it. Why don't you two tell our viewers?
I didn't see it. So
Okay, so, and I put a post out on my Facebook page, and all I did was discuss, the grooming bill, and basically what it does is it criminalizes sexual grooming of our children. And I got the voting the voting tabulation, posted out there, got the picture, posted online, and basically explained how wrong grooming children sexually is and how I would have voted for that. And then I got a message saying that Libs of TikTok posted on X, and it talked about the same thing, and it listed every single one of the legislators and representatives that voted against it. And my thing about it is, this is to introduce the bill,
Right.
to put it up for debate, have that conversation on the
Right.
House floor. If you have something wrong with it, you want to make a tweak, that's where the amendments come in. That's where the committee meetings come in. They can make their amendments, you debate it on the floor. But no, these individuals decided they were going to just straight vote no against it. Fortunately, it did pass, but Libs of TikTok was really quick to point that out. They, at the time I saw it, there had already been over 2,000 people that liked it, over 170, 180 people that commented on it.
Yeah.
And of course, the comments were interesting because my former opponent going to be number one on that list. And in the comments, people were talking about him.
See, that works out good for you. But
Yeah.
you know, we used to live in a time, or at least the Wyoming legislature did, where a lot of what happened here in Cheyenne was not broadcast, across the world. We didn't have YouTube before COVID, and well, they didn't broadcast. YouTube existed, but they didn't broadcast the legislature. Well, now something can happen, and it's all over Libs of TikTok. A heartbeat. So, what do you think that the effect of that is?
Well, I think it helps get the word out, of what your legislators doing. You can see it in real time. And I think even with our writing and your live shows and everything, it's really going to start spreading the word and making people aware of what's actually going on at their legislature.
Well, and I think too, and we're going to talk to a couple of legislators here in a little bit, but I think too that it's about accountability. That nothing is a secret down here, even in little Wyoming. That what you do can be found out by Fox News pretty easily,
Right.
or
Right.
Libs of TikTok or whatever. But part of me says with that accountability that it would cause legislators to vote in a certain way. In Wyoming, you don't get elected unless you're a Republican,
Correct.
unless you live in Laramie or
Right.
Teton County. But that didn't seem to bother them today.
No, and that's really surprising. And especially you think after the last couple of years or so that people have been really paying attention. They've really been starting to hold people accountable, especially in 24 when there was a lot of heads that rolled during the 24 election, and we got more conservatives into the House seats. And you think that would wake people up, but it didn't. They
No.
continue to vote the same way they've always voted. And I don't know if it's arrogance or they just don't care,
I
or
think it's both. And I
It-
think
it
it's
could
because
be.
they got a news media that backs them up one
or
way or another.
or there's special interest groups that
Yeah.
continue to funnel money to their
Right.
campaigns.
Right.
So, all right, we covered this last night, but since I got the three of you here, let's talk about it. The headlines from 2024. You guys remember those? 13 committee bills died.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any of those yesterday?
I've seen 21 die,
The headlines.
but no headlines. No.
I didn't see any headlines on it yesterday.
No. They said the Freedom Caucus was mad,
Yeah,
but they didn't say 21 committee bills killed on day one.
right.
And I think that that's also a key point that I don't think we should let get lost is that, and you brought it up, that the media backs these people up constantly. And all you got to do is look at, the Cowboy State Daily or Wildfile or really any of them.
Correct.
All right. So hold on. You guys talk amongst yourself. Agent 29, are you ready? No. Fine. We've back on the program. Well, Don,
Do you want me to move?
yeah. You want to should we trade out and give Agent 29 a seat here? Thank you for joining us, Don. We'll have you back on the program. All right. Well, we may have to have one of the DC overlords weigh in too.
Oh, those dreaded DC overlords that
All right.
send text
Them out
messages.
today.
Did you now?
I called them out. Yeah,
Heard that.
there was a fuel change proposition by Representative Davis.
Yeah.
And he said, we're going to basically ban cell phone usage. And of course, almost everybody objected because a lot of us use it to look up bills, as a supplement to the computer or whatever. He said, well, they're a distraction. And he even mentioned in his prelude that you can receive messages on your laptop. Well, duh.
Right.
Yeah. So
Well, not
get over here.
secret. Well, that was the speaker pro tem. We'll drag him
It
over here.
was. He's a little bit high and mighty at times. He did a great job today, by the way.
I thought he did too.
Yeah, he did phenomenal.
He did. Anyway, the story, like I got up to testify against it, and I just mentioned that even if you're trying to get a hold of your DC boogeyman,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The ones that don't exist.
yeah. I just want to look some of those people in the face. Do you really think that somebody's going to tell me what to do? Or I love to use Jeanette Ward as an example.
Right.
Anybody tells her what?
No, I don't.
Not,
think anybody.
not that she's
No.
there right now.
All right.
She'll be back, I'll bet.
So you've had 2 full days down there. What? Just shoot from the hip. What are you seeing? What do you think's going on?
Well,
what are you feeling?
Club No has been flipped.
Okay, explain what you mean by that.
So the governor had called us specifically to Freedom Caucus, Club No, because we say no to everything, right? And that's not any way to run. Well, now that we're in charge of the committee and we're putting out committee bills that are shaped in the way that we think they should be, they're voting no on everything. As you guys were just
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, they're killing all those. So all these people are sitting over there saying no. Certain ones of them, and I won't mention Bob Nicholas's name because I don't want to single them out. But there have been several of them where the only 2 opposing votes were Bob Nicholas and Mike Hen. I think they're competing to get to the bottom of the pile. But so friends of ours had some buttons made that said Club No, and I've been handing them out. I tried to give one to Steve Harshman today, and he threw it aside.
He didn't like it.
He didn't see the humor. I told him he's now qualified.
Well, so a couple of people that I've been keeping my eye on is Elisa Campbell, Julie Jarvis, and I mean, they said I like sitting in one specific spot in the House, but they're very liberal legislators, and
They're the worst of the worst.
Yep.
Julie Jarvis voted against at least 3 gun bills today.
Yes, yeah, and she claims to be pro Second Amendment. The point I was getting to is there are a number of people who have almost voted 100% with the Democrats.
I'm sure actually you're sitting up there all day watching this.
I am.
And you can validate what I'm saying or verify what I'm saying. They're the ones voting in lockstep.
Yes.
And if you start looking at, there were many times today when the so-called puppets deviated from the puppet minister. And you don't have to pay very close attention to realize that everything that they try to claim is not only fabricated towards us, but it's projection from their standpoint.
Yeah. Well, and it's and what you see in the media is, and we talk about this a lot on Cowboy State Politics, but the articles that I've seen are so different than what is actually happening on the floor. One of them that I saw was all the election integrity bills get killed. Freedom Caucus mad. All right, so maybe you guys were upset a little bit.
We weren't surprised. No, we completely anticipated this. We did not anticipate that the school recalibration bill would go down. We thought we'd at least be able to have a house fight out of that. But the particular person, and I won't single out Bob Orff, but the particular person that I think was flopping on that, I challenged him last week. And if it comes over from the Senate, I think it'll fare a little bit better this time.
Okay, now we have an interesting story about that coming on the Open Range Record tomorrow. That I'm not going to steal Don's thunder on that one. But so let's talk about what the results of that recalibration not passing would be. What would happen there, Ken?
Well, it could possibly force a special session. And if that still failed, eventually we just hand it over to the courts and then they dictate. Basically, we abdicate our responsibility as legislators and turn it over to the courts, and they will do whatever they want to do. And with their input from the WEA, you can only imagine where that would put us.
Yeah, and it basically would take it out of
yeah.
the people's hands.
But what it shows you is there are people sitting on the other side of the aisle, and we all know they try to wear that R moniker, that really don't give a crap about. Yeah, Larson said that today.
Nobody said
And nobody weird. Yeah. Anyway, they don't care about the real issues. All they care about is trying to make us look bad.
Yes.
They want to make it look like we can't govern. They want to make it look like everything fell apart while we were in control, and they will completely derail everything in order to do that. They have totally lost sight of the fact that they're supposed to be representing the voters. You heard many of them going out there, and all they're talking about is, well, this would hurt this agency, this would hurt this one, this. They are representing the agencies. They are government representing government, and they don't give a damn about the voters.
Well, okay, so let's talk about one of those votes. It was a vote to stop associations from paying their dues with public funds.
I got a text.
Did you now? From
From
your DC overlord?
No, I got a text from a certain county commissioner in Sheridan County. And again, I don't want to out Christy Haswell, but she said, why did you do this? And I said, because I am tired of organizations paid for with taxpayer dollars advocating for things that are against the taxpayer.
Yeah.
So we're paying for our own demise, essentially.
So actually, I think you were sitting up there when Lloyd Larson got up and he was arguing against the bill to do away with taxpayer funding of these associations. Did you catch what he said? That they're really employees of the tax.
Yeah, he was starting to talk about. He talked about how their information is valuable, and they're employees, and that they give us information that we need to have so they can make educated decisions. Blah 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 blah. He was basically trying to justify their existence and why it is our responsibility as taxpayers to pay for it.
I want to say there's some truth in what he's saying, but those that have that interest need to support that advocate.
Exactly.
It's not, we're supposed to be in there representing the taxpayer. That's who we are. That's why they call us representatives.
And that's where I was headed, because that's the phrase that Lloyd Larson used, that they're representing the people.
No, they are informational, and I don't want to, we do need lobbyists at times because we need to understand their position and all that. Sure. And I speak to them all the time, but you need to understand where they're coming from and who they're advocating for. And the person that gets left out, the people that get left out of all these discussions most often are the actual taxpayers themselves, because representatives don't represent. And it doesn't take very long.
Right.
They go to Cheyenne, they get absorbed by whatever.
Let's just be really clear about what a lobbyist is. So generally, private organizations hire a person, call them a lobbyist, to come down and advocate for their position, whatever that is. And just about every industry has their own set of lobbyists. There's the what is it? The Stock Growers Association. There's the energy companies. I mean, there's a lobbyist for everything. But all of these associations, the Clerks Association, the assessors, they have a lobbyist. But who does that lobbyist represent?
They would represent their own interest.
Of the clerks or of the assessors. It's not you and me. I mean, it's
the worst part about it is, like, the WCCA charges outlandish amounts for a membership. And the reason they do that is because they can, because the state's going to pick up the tab. If those county commissioners, and they're free to join any organization they want to join, and they probably should, foot it themselves.
Yes.
And I guarantee you the prices are going to go way down. Because individuals can't afford that.
Right.
But because the state will pay it, we're just dumping money into a hole that turns around and bites us in the tail.
So I kind of worked with Representative Brady a little bit on her. She has an
Yeah.
association bill that I think we've yet to get to.
Yeah.
But she told me that when you add up all of the dues that these associations charge, or that we pay for, we're talking millions of dollars. It's not small dollar amounts. It's
No.
huge.
And it goes at all levels. This came in front of management council, and they talked about getting rid of a couple of the associations for legislators. And they came in with all sorts of big guns. Look at all the things we've done for you and all the information that we provide and everything. And management council caved and said, okay, we really can't afford to do it without you. I beg to differ.
Yeah. One of them that always, I talk about this one on the show a lot, but the NAGs, the National Association of Attorneys General. And so the dues for that association is $75,000, and it's for one person.
Wow.
That's every year.
Yeah.
We only have one attorney general. So Ken, we got you. You're the vice chairman of appropriations. Why don't you take a few minutes and just talk to us about what's going on in appropriations?
Well,
besides spending money.
Yeah, over the next few days, we're going to get to do gun bills. And I think that I love that idea, because for a while they were throwing gun bills into the prior appropriations committee, and they were
to kill them.
They were destroying them. We might be playing the other side of the game. I don't know the inside baseball. But just as an overview, we cut roughly $350 million out of the governor's budget, and that amounts to about 3%.
Right.
And you would think that we had just slid them from ear to ear and gutted them. She's in there. Sorry, Mike Schmidt just went by.
Mike Schmidt. You gotta come over here and talk to us, Mike. You have to come around that side of the table, though.
I'll finish up what I got, and then you get a chance.
All right, we'll talk to Mike here in just a minute.
Basically, in appropriations, we're doing everything that we can to toe the line and put the skids on the growth of government, and that's all we're doing. We're not cutting big holes. Well, maybe a little bit into the University of Wyoming, but they deserve it.
So are you going to restore the governor's cuts? The cuts you made to the governor?
No, I don't think so.
All right, thank you, Ken. Thank you, Agent 29. I've missed you. So now we have Representative Schmidt. How you doing, Mike?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
All right. Well,
Hanging in there.
Okay, welcome to the Roundup.
Hey, how you doing, Mike? Good to see you.
All right. So, Representative, the treatment that everybody new on my program gets, or I guess this show too, is why don't you take a couple minutes and tell our audience about yourself, and make sure you talk into the mic a little bit.
Well, I always struggle with this part.
Talking about yourself?
Talking about myself, yeah. So I was raised over in Daniel, Wyoming, the now famous Daniel.
Yeah, very unfortunately.
Infamous Daniel, Wyoming.
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah, but anyway, that's where I was raised, with school in Pinedale, and just got out of high school and decided the oil field was pretty attractive. It was pretty good wages back in those days for a young guy, and decided I'd go make a little money before I decided to do something else. And I just fell in love with the oil patch and built myself a business over there.
Okay, so all right, we got to talk about your business a little bit, and then we'll get to the business you're currently in. So you have what I think is a pretty amazing business, and we did an interview on Cowboy State Politics, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell our audience how you started it and how big it is now? Because I think that's an important part of it.
Yeah. Well, Exxon came into Southwest Wyoming back in the early 80s. And I was working for a contractor at the time. And I got to know a few of the Exxon people up there. And the drilling rigs, that's when they had the drilling rigs on the mountain. They were first drilling the deep wells there for that whole large project. And I got to know some of those guys, and they were complaining they couldn't really find any good roustabout crews. And said, man, if you ever decide you want to try something like that, let us know. So I decided to do it. I talked to my father-in-law. He took me down to the local bank, and he co-signed me a note for $30,000 to get started. And I went back up and told the one drilling superintendent what I'd done. That was the 14th of December, 1984. He said, I'll tell you what, we're coming into the holidays. He said, you come see me the day after New Year's.
Okay.
I went back and saw him and he put me to work. Just me, and I was cleaning. I was basically a maid. They were on 2-week intervals. Drilling superintendents would trade out every 2 weeks, and I'd just go in there and clean up the trailer before he left, and then just do chores around the rig site, pick up trash, and keep things organized for him. And just one thing led to another, and he introduced me to another drilling superintendent. I got a day with him, and then pretty soon I had a week's worth of work for me and a couple of guys, and it just blew up from there. I mean, I got along good. I tried to do a good job and got to know the Exxon people very well. Within 2 years, I had about 150 guys working for me. A 26-year-old kid that, you know.
See, that's an amazing story, and it's one that you don't hear very often from the legislator. You know,
Yeah.
weird. We elected somebody that has actually signed a paycheck.
Yeah. And it was amazing. In fact, last summer, the gentleman, the Exxon drilling superintendent, he's now 82 years old. He showed up in my office, come back into the country, and found us, knocked on the door, and said, "Hey, here I am, Mike. You remember me?" I said, "Heck yeah, I remember you well, David Sperry." I said, "I got to tell you something, David. You were the first. I generated the first invoice for Exxon Company USA." And I said, "You know what? 42 and a half years later, I'm still generating invoices for Exxon. It's 42 years they've been a customer for us."
Well, I think it's an amazing story, and I think it's one that needs to be told. You know, so often, and maybe this is a good place we haven't talked about this yet. We have heard several times over the interim and during the session, and even people that you sit in that same room with have said that the free market doesn't work in Wyoming. That it's too small, that you have to have government. What do you think about that?
Well, there couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, it's there. It's there today. I've seen it. I mean, basically, ever since I've been in business, I've seen other businesses start. People that have worked for me for years have left and started businesses. It's there. It's a little difficult. It's a different environment today, but it's there. And all people have to do is just get in it, and be willing to work.
Well, and absolutely. And you're very correct, because I started my painting business from scratch 6 years ago. I got tired of working for a boss, so I quit my civilian job. Been retired for a couple years, so I started a painting business. And at the time, Cheyenne only had maybe 5 or 6 painting businesses in the entire town. Well, now we're up to, gosh, every time I turn around, a new painting business is popping up, and none of them are getting money from the government.
Right.
Nobody's getting money to sustain. I mean, I've been able to sustain on my own for 6 years and not take a payout, even during COVID. I didn't take a payout from the government to keep my painting business going. I had to work hard to do that. And all these other business owners that are in that business, they've had to do that as well. And I've seen it works. When I see it fail is when the government's getting involved, and it hurts those who are not getting those subsidies, because it's like you have a business, you're working on your own, but the government subsidizes this other business. Well, of course, they got a blank check from the government that they can go do that stuff. I mean, your wife's a hairdresser, and what if she had to compete with a hairdresser down the road that's getting all these government subsidies and getting all the help? It would make it tough for her to continue to do business. And that's where we see the problem with the government interjecting itself in the free market. And the reason that Josh Durrell says, well, the free market doesn't work, is because the government's not allowing it to work. They need to let it work. And it is working. They're just trying hard not to make it work.
Yeah. Well, and I couldn't agree with you more, actually. I mean, when I started, I mean, like I said, my father-in-law was the one that co-signed that first note for me. And, you know, I mean, there's just something, if that would have been maybe a sack full of quasi free cash, would I have worked near as hard?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Because the last thing I want to do is have my father-in-law on my butt with his name on that note.
Well, and there's definitely a difference in philosophies in both chambers. And even like what I mean in both chambers, I mean there's a group of people that are like the two of you, business owners, worked hard for a living, signing some paychecks,
Mhm.
even when you probably could have used that money yourself. And then there's another group of folks that they believe in this government intervention. So where I'd like to go next, Mike, you and I had dinner the other night, and you mentioned to me, well, we'll just try it again. So you're a relatively new legislator. This is your second session.
Yep.
What do you think? If there's one thing that surprised you the most, what would that be?
I think for me, like I mentioned the other night, is just the tension that you can just feel between the two chambers. This we've got 93 legislators in here. I think we've got eight Democrats, the rest
We're around the whole
Republicans.
bunch, yeah.
But the tension between the two chambers, I think, is what surprises me the most. I don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Well, and again, I think a lot of it goes back to this difference in philosophies. Like you have one group that's very, very interested in government intervention, and you have another group that's, well, they're not.
Mhm.
And one, and the Senate is perhaps controlled by one of those groups, and the House by the other.
Controlled by another.
All right, so we got a number of things that have come up the last 2 days. Why don't you tell us, Mike, what you're most passionate about? You had a couple bills. Why don't you talk to us about
I
them?
got a couple of bills. One is they're all constituent based. I mean, that's what I feel I came here for, is to
I believe so.
represent the people in my district. But you see a lot. You can see differences in people, but that's what my focus is. I didn't come here because I need anything. I don't need something to do. I mean, I come here because this state's been good to me. The district that I'm in has been good to me. The people have been good to me. And it's just a way for me to maybe give something back. I'm still healthy. I've got good people running the business, taking care of the business. I've got some time, and I want to try to give something back. But so the bills that I've got, just a couple of small bills. One is to try to get some uh, a mandatory live stream of our school board meetings.
Oh, I love that. Talk to me about that.
We live in an area where we've got a lot of hardworking folks, the oil patch, and they don't get in on time to get to these meetings. And even if they do get in on time, by the time they get cleaned up and ready to go, sometimes they're just pooped, and they want to be able to have a tool where they can either get home and watch them or listen to them at a later date.
I'm sitting in the work truck and
Right.
watch it.
Whatever, just give them some options where they can get involved. So that's one. That's one of the bills I'm going to try to run. And then the other one is it's called taking of predators.
Okay.
And we all know what's been going on over there in
Let's
that part of
talk-
the state. But what it is it's a bill that it's trying to clean up a little bit of a mess I think we got here in Wyoming, the way we treat our wildlife, even predators. I know that's just a coyote or it's just a fox, but they're still live living creatures. I've been a lifelong hunter. I love to hunt. I've hunted many coyotes. I've taken many coyotes, but since this thing has come up, I've come together with this bill that it kind of treats our predators a little bit differently. I'm not trying to ruin or damage our agricultural business. The bill will state where you're a landowner, you're a rancher, you have every right to do what you need to do on your private land to manage your income and take care of your livelihood, manage your livestock. So no holds barred. You do what you need to do, even if it's using a snow machine to run them down and take them.
See, and we'll go ahead and finish, and then we'll talk about it.
Right. And then the second thing is that it doesn't affect any of our government agencies, game and fish or predator boards. They still have the ability to go out and do the job they need to do by whatever means. But the third thing is, well, let me back up. It doesn't affect hunters. I mean, hunters can still pursue on a snow machine. They just can't intentionally use that machine as a weapon. They can pursue the animal, get close to it, get off, take the animal out, but you just can't use that machine as a weapon, intentionally kill something with a motorized vehicle.
Well, see, I was really surprised that that was even a thing. I mean, I've been a hunter all my life. I mean, and my dad's much more. He's the guy that go tromp through the woods. I'm the guy that if I don't happen to be sitting outside the cabin and happen to have my gun and something happens to run by, it's probably going to live.
Right.
But growing up, we always hunted. There were winters where that's the meat we had to eat. We couldn't afford to go to the grocery store.
Right.
But I never thought that it was legal to run a coyote or a wolf down with a snowmobile. I never thought that was a thing.
Yeah.
And the thing that you'll find, David, is it's really not ranchers and ag people that are doing this. I mean, if you think about it, all their cattle are off the summer pastures, out of the national forest. They're down at the home place.
Mhm.
And down at the home place, what's down there? Fences, ditches, willows, trees, usually not enough snow to be racing across,
No,
the country at 60 miles an hour chasing an animal. So they're not really the ones doing this. It's really not hunters that are doing it. They take predator calls and do their thing. The guilty party, in my opinion, are our weekend recreational riders that come in here from all over the place, neighboring states, and they come into our country, unload, and they running up in the wilds, and they come across an animal with no weapon. In these snow machines built today, there's nothing going to get away from them.
no, I mean 90 miles an hour.
And they chase them and they keep running them over until they kill the thing.
I gotta think, and this is okay. I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate and perhaps actually let's get you in here
Okay.
first. Tell us what your opinion of this whole thing is.
Well, I mean, I do some hunting and stuff, but I don't really pay too much attention as far as what that bill is directing to as far as the wildlife. But, I would have to agree with you that the people who are actually owning the ranches, owning the farmland, they're the ones that are respecting the wildlife. They're the ones respecting the land. And I would have to agree that you get a lot of these weekend warriors that come out there and they have brand new snowmobiles that they've never fired up before and don't know their capabilities and say, "Oh, look at that animal. Let's go chase it down and see what that is." You get a lot of one thing I saw when I was hunting a lot back in the day was you get people from the East Coast or the West Coast who want to come. Yeah. And, and they want to come out. They want to get the big trophy, and they don't have respect for our land like our landowners do.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's about kind of what I much know about what your bill does and everything is it's really trying to respect the land, respect the animals.
Right. Exactly.
See, and that's where he was headed with that whole thing. Is the way I grew up is you don't shoot at a coyote unless you're gonna kill it.
Right.
You don't shoot at any animal unless you're gonna kill it.
Right.
Well, and there's another reason for coyotes and wolves is they're pretty smart.
Mhm.
And if you take a shot and miss, you won't see them for.
You just educate
Right.
them,
You
yeah.
just educated them, right?
Yeah.
But the other part of it is you don't shoot an animal unless you can hit it and you can kill it.
Right.
And I think most people in Wyoming are, and again, there's that word, most people.
Yeah.
Vast majority are
Yeah.
good ethical hunters.
And so, and we're kind of hitting around this. So where is that case in Daniel at?
Well, there was a grand jury that the county attorney brought. I think it's up for I want to say he's going to trial sometime in March. I think
Wow.
it's
It's
going
been
to happen.
like 3 years or something.
Yeah, I think
2,
you're right.
3?
I think it's been 3. But I mean, and I don't necessarily agree with that coming in 2 years after it happened and then go through this process.
Mhm.
What I felt is, and I had people when I tried to run this bill last year and I didn't quite get it through the ag committee, close, tie vote, but he went through the process, the guilty party went through the process, Game and Fish find him. I would have liked to seen that die right there, over and
I
done
think
with.
it should be.
I think would have been the proper avenue to take, because what I found is now that this has resurfaced again, it's kind of taken a little bit of the focus off how we want to treat the animal, and it's back on the individual. And I've had people tell me that if this is the way this is going to happen, I don't care about your bill anymore, you know? So we're kind of losing a little bit of steam that I thought I had last year because of it. And I hope that doesn't happen, but I think I can feel that. And I've been told that. So we'll see where it goes.
You know, it's funny, and I don't know this has happened since you've been in the legislature, but if you want to see a big fight erupt on the floor, say the words preference points, and that entire floor will just explode. There was a debate, I don't think it was last year, I think it was the year before, but that thing went on to like 10 o'clock at night, and we were talking about preference points and what to do with them. And I think that it's one of the cool things in Wyoming that hunting, fishing, recreation, that really does represent a big part of our state.
It's part of who we are. It's our heritage, part of our heritage.
Now you had another bill, I think it was last year, about the cloud seeding.
Yes.
Okay, now I want you to explain it, because a lot of people think that that's a bunch of hocus pocus,
Right.
that we don't do that, it's no big deal. But you thought it was a big deal. Talk to me.
Well, I do. When I picked up on that cloud seeding thing is when we were in an ag committee meeting, and I come through on the omnibus water bill, House Bill 117, I think it was, and I noticed cloud seeding in there. So I started looking at it a little bit, and I didn't realize that we were doing that. I'd heard about it, but I didn't realize that was still in effect in the Wind River Mountains, and I think the Sierra Madres is where we were doing it. And it wasn't a lot of money. It was a little over $1 million, and a lot of the lower basin states were picking up the tab for that. But started kind of poking around with it and researching it and trying to educate myself on it a little bit, what it was all about. And man, the more I researched it, the more intriguing it got. And what I found is that, and I started kind of putting some things together. In the Wind River Mountains, that's one of the most wild, scenic mountain ranges in the lower 40.
It's not as cool as the Bighorns, but whatever.
Yeah, well, we'll argue about that another day. But I got to looking around at that, and it's got the most glaciers of any range in the continental 48 states. We had a bighorn sheep herd up there that numbered 2,500 animals at one time.
Wow.
Whiskey Mountain herd. It was what I called the hatchery for bighorn sheep nationwide. I mean, when they were doing bighorn sheep translocations, they come to the Whiskey Mountain herd to pull them animals out and send them out. That herd now is down under 500 animals.
Wow.
I mean, it's almost gone. And they can't figure out why. Well, you know what I found? And there's a couple of reasons why. One is bighorn sheep are just susceptible to pneumonia. Okay. Number one. Number two, so they had a lot of the sheep that were dying up there from pneumonia, from a pneumonia outbreak. And number two, they're having very low lambing rates. I mean, just like single digit numbers per 100 ewes. Well, come to find out, this cloud seeding and the silver iodide that they pump into these clouds to supposedly make more moisture, over the long-term effects of that stuff can create respiratory issues in wildlife and even human beings.
So is there a correlation between the two?
Well, nobody can prove that. This is my theory. And it also can affect birthing rates for wildlife. Plus, it affects water quality over time, continued exposure, as well as plant life, aquatic life, and plant life. I mean, it's all over the place. You can find all that information anywhere you look. You can bring that information up. So my thinking is, I think that might be part of our problem up there. Is that we've been cloud seeding up there for decades. And nobody can, when you try to pin down an expert on if this stuff really works.
There are no experts on it.
We had 4 at the last ag meeting. I tried to pin them down. The weatherman from Utah, he was probably the most convincing, saying that he thought it worked. The next guy was from Colorado. Come to find out, he was a wildlife biologist, so he really didn't know. The third guy was a UW professor. The weather professor, and his answer was, well, I got to be more cautious.
Well, I think he took too many DEI classes. That's why he wasn't paying attention to weather class.
The fourth guy was a guy from our own Wyoming Water Development Office, and I just got one of them like 10-minute roundabout answers that really said nothing.
Right. Well, I think that thing, that's been one of the crown jewels of the liberals since
Oh, yeah.
I've been at the legislature. I think it's a bunch of hocus pocus, if you ask me. Thank you for jumping on board, killing that mess. And you know what? That probably is a good place to end it. Mike, thank you for joining us.
You bet, David.
Eggsy, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me
man.
on here, buddy.
Yeah, and we'll
Thank
see
you,
you
David.
tomorrow.
You bet.
Great to sit with you, Mike.
Don, too.
See you,
Don,
Exy.
thank
Take
you very
care, man.
much. So thank you very much for listening to the program. We'll be back tomorrow.